Hello and welcome to another video tutorial. I am Marcel Kadiev and today we will be learning how to create basic unit tests for your 3D Studio Max plugins and tools. I assume that you have some working knowledge of Max, C#, and a basic understanding of the concept of test-driven development. It will also help to check out some of my previous Max.NET tutorials. Unit testing can reduce a great deal of debugging time as well as give you a peace of mind about the stability of your code. I will be using 3D Studio Max 2010 and Visual Studio 2008 for this tutorial. I have already set up my Max.NET to allow remoting. If you do not know how to do it, check out my external scripting video tutorial. For this demonstration, I will be testing 3D Studio Max's built-in box primitive. I'll write two tests, one testing its successful creation and deletion, and another one testing its parameters and output. Let's begin by opening Visual Studio and creating a new project. This will be a test project, and I am going to name it Box Test. Like before, I am going to include Max.NET's interfaces assembly as a reference. Please note that this assembly was renamed from interfaces.dll to autodesk.max.dll, starting with version 0.2 of the Max.NET wrapper. If you recall from external scripts tutorial, we can easily access 3D Studio Max's global interface through one line of code using remoting. We will be doing the same thing here by getting access to global interface from inside the test initializer method. This method gets called only once when the test assembly starts up, so we will not be connecting to 3D Studio Max twice. I am storing the reference to 3D Studio Max's global interface inside the test class's member variable. Visual Studio generates a basic test class with one test method. We will use this template to create our first unit test. Here we will test Max to ensure that we are able to create a box object node and then successfully delete it. The first thing in this test is to create a box object. Then we will create a node for it. At this point, I want to make sure that both object and node were created successfully by adding 3 test asserts, 2 to check for null references and 1 to make sure that scene now has one node in it. After that, we will delete the node that we created from the scene and make sure that the scene doesn't have any nodes left. Let's create another unit test now, which will make sure that the box object we generate has correct dimensions inside the scene. I'm going to rename my first test to create and delete and call this one box dimensions. First two lines are the same as in previous test. They create a box object and a node for it. Next line sets the length, width, and other parameters for this box to some arbitrary values. Next, we retrieve the scene bounding box for this object. Because bounding boxes usually reflect what is shown in the viewport, this is a good test for our parameters. I am then calling 3 asserts, each making sure that the dimensions of the bounding box reflect the previously set parameters. And finally, we clean up by deleting the object node. Object will be automatically deleted by Max with the node. Now it is time to build our project and run the tests. Launch 3D Studio Max. Once it is up, go back to Visual Studio and run our project by pressing Ctrl plus F5. All of the tests execute and pass. Congratulations! You've just tested one of Autodesk's products in a managed and intuitive environment. Now you can apply the same technique to testing your own tools and plugins inside 3D Studio Max. I have done so with all my written tools for .NET, and it has greatly improved the quality of my code. Thank you for listening.